It's not hyperbole to say that marriage and the question of who should or should not be married are some of the most controversial topics of our day. And this is especially true for young people. To merely believe that marriage should be between a man and a woman is to invite scorn, mockery, and accusations of being behind the times or unfair or even a bigot. And these days, the majority of Americans believe that same-sex marriage should be legal. And to only complicate the conversation, the Respect for Marriage Act has recently passed, and in so doing has enshrined same-sex marriage into American law. And so it raises the question, should we just let this issue be? And the answer is no. It's vitally important for us to uphold what the Bible has to say about marriage. And the question becomes why? Why do we care who gets married? And I think we should care for at least 3 reasons. 1, God created marriage. Who gets to define marriage? Do you or do I? Do we have that authority? The Respect for Marriage Act seeks to take that authority and assign it to the state. And as Christians, we believe that God alone possesses this authority, for He is the creator of marriage. And so back in Genesis 2, at the very beginning of the Bible, we see the first marriage. God creates man. And then He comes to man and He makes this incredible declaration. It is not good for man to be alone. And then God seeks to deal with this problem by taking from man and forming woman. And then He brings the woman to the man to be his wife. And this culminates with an incredible statement from Genesis 2:24 and 25. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. So what we see in these verses is the very first marriage. Adam and Eve didn't come up with this idea. God did. And He created this institution to be a permanent and exclusive union between one man and one woman. Now, some people will point to Jesus and say, Jesus never said anything about same-sex marriage, and that's simply not true. When Jesus was confronted with the topic of divorce in Matthew 19, Jesus pulls back the curtains on the nature of marriage by pointing back to Genesis 2. And He says that what God has joined together, let no man separate. And in doing this, He upholds the good design revealed for marriage in Genesis 2. And so, as some have concluded, let therefore man not join together what God has not joined together. God creates marriage, and therefore He gets to define what marriage is. And from the very beginning pages of Scripture, we see that marriage is meant to be an exclusive, lasting relationship between one man and one woman. Why else do we care who gets married? Well, 2, because marriage benefits society. God not only created marriage, but He also established marriage as one of the primary institutions by which He is going to order and bless the world. Marriage is an institution that matters. It matters for everyone because it benefits everyone, Christian and non-Christian alike. Back in Genesis 1, God came to the newly married Adam and Eve, and He gave them a job. He said, be fruitful and multiply, rule and subdue the earth. This is what's often called the creation or the cultural mandate. And marriage is one of the primary ways that human beings fulfill the cultural mandate. And that happens in at least 2 ways. Marriage becomes the context in which this multiplication happens. But 2, marriage also becomes the context in which these children who are born are reared, and therefore where society is enabled to flourish. And we don't even need the Bible to see these purposes of marriage. The natural order reinforces the wisdom of God in creating marriage, and it shows us the benefit of obeying God's commands where marriage is concerned. The procreative foundation of marriage is built into our bodies. And so sociology, biology, all of these things testify to this idea that a one flesh union between a man and a woman is actually going to be the best place for children to be born, for children to be raised, for children to be cared for, and therefore for society to flourish. We live in a cultural moment where society is seeking to reimagine or redefine marriage. And it does so to its peril. Only chaos will ensue, and the primary people that will suffer will be children. We, however, have the opportunity to uphold marriage and hold it in high honor, and the result of that will be blessing, will be order, and a society that flourishes. Finally, marriage proclaims the gospel. God obviously cares about marriage. The Bible begins with the marriage in Genesis 2, and it ends with the marriage in Revelation 19. Paul, speaking about marriage in Ephesians chapter 5, says, "This mystery is profound, and I'm saying that it refers to Christ and the church." And so what we see in these verses is that marriage uniquely displays the gospel. There's something about marriage, even imperfect marriages, that displays the divine love of Christ for his bride. And so far from being unloving, when we insist on the exclusivity and the permanence of marriage between one man and one woman, we uniquely love the world because we display something about God's love to redeem and save a people to himself. The stakes are massive. On one hand, we obviously want to uphold the value and dignity of all people. We want to love our same-sex attracted neighbors, but we want to do so in a way that glorifies God and actually works for their good. And so we must insist on upholding a high view of marriage. And we do this as we faithfully commit to engage in our marriages and as we commit to teaching our children about the true nature of marriage as revealed in the Bible. We graciously but boldly declare that it matters who gets married because God created marriage and he created it as an institution that results in human flourishing. And so we redefine it at our peril. But God also created this institution to be a means by which he pours out his love and his grace on a world that desperately needs it.